Welcome to our Tuesday Live this week on today with John Willis from Special Operations Equipment and Kiri Torgler. I just made sure I said her name right, from Thunderhill Farm. I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast and Hello Roast Coffee. Let's start out with Kiri. For the 7 people on the live stream who haven't seen you in the live streams commenting, who or what is a Kiri Torgler?
Kiri Torgler is a homesteader that lives in northern Wisconsin. I've got a lovely farm and a large orchard and a little sauce business and a lot of big dreams and a lot of directions to go in.
Awesome. John, what's new around the compound this week?
Rain, lots of rain. Everything is tripled in size from last week.
How are your vegetables?
Everything's great. Everything's really, really well.
Nice.
Yeah, it's been actually a fairly friendly spring in Tennessee, except for the hail and the tornadoes. But other than that, it's been a pretty friendly spring as long as they didn't hit your stuff. From a growing perspective, like Mother Nature is watering on a nice cycle for us here. And I think that's happening out there too.
Yeah, very much so. Even the hail, like we had hail, I don't know, a month or so ago that actually put dents in everything out here. But did no damage to any of the garden. You couldn't find any damage at all. You would never know it even happened.
Nice. So you've heard it here first, guys. You can throw rocks at your plants and it should be okay.
They seem very resilient. Like I expected to go out. Like when you stand in the row house in the greenhouse there, you can see where it actually punched through a few places. When you're under the quail area, the tarp that's up there has a few little spots where you can see daylight through it now. But the plants, 100%, nothing wrong with them.
I guess that makes sense because if you have a lot of small pieces of hail hitting your plants, that's going to do a lot of damage to leaves. But you were having like almost golf ball sized come down or quarter sized.
Yeah.
And that means where it hits one leaf and that's it. And there's space between it.
Yeah.
And the leaf can then flop. But
even on like the tomatoes, there's no yellow arms or limbs or anything off of there. I mean, it's like it didn't even phase it at all.
Yep, that's cool. Kiri, you were there for that hailstone, weren't you?
Yeah, we actually have a custom finish on the hood of the Tundra now that we call the SOE finish, because we got some little hail dents, but you know, Glenn and I think it's pretty cool. That was an intense storm, though.
Yeah, I've heard of golf ball size hail. Had never seen it before.
Yeah, somebody put a picture up of the hail like build up on the road, and somebody said they were liars because it looked like snow. They were just like, that's bull. And I was like, well, I have 2 live videos from 2 people at SOE that tells me that you're wrong.
Yeah.
So, okay. So, Kiri, I think I'm going to start out with the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
You have a perfectly decent job that you like.
Yes, I do. I'm a director.
What?
So I was just saying, I'm a director of human resources.
Well, and your hair is blue, so that just fits all of my stereotypes. And you are going to be walking away from that job and going full-time on your homestead product line at Thunderhill Farm. What would possess a person to leave something perfectly secure that you like? It's not like you go in and you're like, I got to get out of here because it's killing me, and go to running your own thing, the hard life of growing things and producing stuff from those things, like that whole thing that you are now walking into.
Honestly, I went through some health problems and really looked at my life and looked at my programming and who I listen to and who I invest my time and my mind energy in. Did a lot of that while I was healing and really went, this is my dream. And I, as a professional coach and trainer and recruiter, I'm very people oriented. And I started taking my own advice and taking good advice and seeing how did it feel. I didn't dive into it. This has been a process probably over the last going on 6-7 years of learning how to garden, learning how to can, learning, do I like birds? Do I want to raise birds? And testing the waters. And then the last year's really just solidified it that this is what I want to do. And it's time for me to put all that energy into this because frankly, I'm very good at it. And I want to work for myself. I think I'm a pretty good boss.
Now, when did you like firmly make the decision that maybe it was time to change? Like what made that happen?
Well, this feels strange, but you guys, I set some goals after I left SRF in April of last year of really, you know what, do the work. Really, I listen to you and John and talk about the hours that you work. Yeah, I give 8 hours a day to my job, but I've got another 16 that I can do anything I want with. So why don't I put the work to it, and figured out I'm good at it. So that was, let's take a test and see how it goes in the community. So we vended in October, and I came home from October and turned 50. And January 1st of this year, I said, no more excuses. Put it into overdrive. See what you can do. I built a website, got the store up and running. Every piece of advice, I got a lot of advice from John and Amanda. I really took advantage of the members' question and answer sessions to get everything out there I could. I know I've asked you dozens and dozens of questions also, Nicole, about just tips and tricks and how are you doing it? Because you guys, you were the TV I was watching. You were the people I was listening to. So the fact that I was able to get a direct line to you, it was like I have zero excuses. So January, I changed my life and put everything into overdrive, and everything is pointing in the direction that this is what I should be doing. So I made the jump in March, told my bosses of 25 years that it's time for me to find my replacement, because John might have called me a really fun name on a live one night, and the next day I had the conversation. But it was time. And, I'm helping transition the company that I've helped build over 25 years with new leadership. And I get to take all that time now and focus on me. And by the time I see you guys at the next SRF, that's going to be my life.
Is the money coming in from Thunderhill Farms equal to the money from the corporate job?
No.
How long until that happens?
My projection is end of probably second or third quarter next year.
And that's the profits left over, right?
Correct.
Okay. Awesome. But totally doable.
It's totally doable. And I have an incredible husband who's got an incredibly successful business up here because he's done things very smartly, but he also needs help on the marketing. He needs help on the admin side of things, the skills that I already have from the corporate job. So having me off of that and being able to balance both businesses and manage both businesses just plays to my strengths and to his needs. So it's not just Thunderhill Farm, it's Thunderhill Electric also that I'll be helping support.
Yep. Yeah, he does. That dude works hard.
Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah. Good choice.
I did pretty well. And our joke around the farm here is if he can build it, I fill it. So I basically say, we're going to have an orchard. He built the orchard. The second that a plant goes into the orchard, it is no longer his problem. He's like, I built you the raised beds. I got them full. Bye, next project. And it's a really, really great way for us to work. He doesn't can anything. He was the one who did all the water bath canning and the pressure canning when we first got together. He doesn't even do that anymore. I didn't do any of the canning, and I started that maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And that's kind of how we divide and conquer, but it works really well for us.
So how long have you been on your homestead?
Going into year 4 up here.
And what did you come into? Was it just a blank slate, or how did that whole process go? And how did you decide where to start?
Really easy. Glenn's entire family is from up here in this little tiny corner of northern Wisconsin. And we used to come up here when we still lived in Milwaukee. We were city dwellers. I was a Chicagoan for a very long time. I'm very glad I've kept moving north into the woods. It was a good call for me. But his whole family lives up here. So we are shirt tail related to everybody within 2.5 miles of us. And the land that we ended up buying, it's a very strange parcel, but it borders his brother's property and cousin's property. So we have like a 7-acre diamond that for probably 50 or 60 years, they were just the best farmers. They rotated between potatoes and wheat. So we bought a homestead with a lot of dead soil. But we got it for a song. We own it outright. And the 100-year-old house that we're moving this summer over to a different section of the property was actually where several family members' parents were born. So we want to keep the house and kind of keep that piece of the family history. But after we bought the property and were really able to start looking at it, we realized how bad the soil was and that it needed a lot of deep work. So we don't do a whole lot in the ground. We do a lot of soil prep before we even plant trees, which is great. We are very good at gardening rocks up here. We pull boulders out. One of the biggest and most amazing things that we do have up here is access to family and all the tools that the family have. We daydream all the time about moving to Tennessee because we love it down there. And there are some amazing people that live down there. But then I look at Glenn and go, yeah, but the skid steer and the front end loader and the 6 or 7 different tractors and the four-wheelers and all of the things that the family has that we have access to, that's been a force multiplier, as we like to say. So we love, and it's beautiful up here. We have 4 very distinct seasons. When we take our drive around the block, which is what Glenn and I do to kind of reset every week and talk about what we have to do the next week. Our block is 13.5 miles through the hills and valleys, and it's gorgeous. But we still want to go to Tennessee.
Yeah, we all want you to come to Tennessee, right, John?
Yeah, we have tractors here, Kiri.
There's land for sale near John, as I understand it.
Yeah, everywhere.
Well, we'll be coming down in a couple of weeks, I think, to work on some projects with you guys. So maybe
when you say rock, are you guys like on bedrock? Could you put a pond in, or do you just have rocks like we have rocks?
That we have rocks like you have rocks. We actually, between the property that we're currently living on, which belongs to family, and where our property is, there's an entire gravel pit, which might have turned into a range. But we're surrounded by multiple gravel pits in this area.
How much? So you're on 7, and then you have relative and relative. How much property do they have?
We border to 140, which is Glenn's brother's property. And then the 40 that we're living on right now is like a corner toucher of that one. That's his sister's property. And then cousins own everything else around us.
So in effect, you guys have access to all of that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And I mean, like literally straight through our property has been a family easement for years. It's a legal easement also, but it's literally just, that's the way people have cut through to get to the backwoods.
Yeah.
So it's something that we just had in our plan of like when we're going to run the driveway, and we're going to make sure that it follows that path. So it's just easier for anybody using that cut through.
Yeah, that's even better than having, well, I have 10 acres, but I'm on, 1 million acres of wildlife refuge. Yeah, only until a politician changes that.
Correct.
So to have all that other locked up, that's huge.
Well, that and I've been thinking a lot about the succession problem on farms where the younger generation has decided to leave the farm, which is a cycle that farms have gone through for hundreds of years. Yeah. And some of the decisions you would make as a farmer are maybe not the best for the long-term health of the land because you're not leaving it to your kids anymore. So what? I need to make money now.
That's true.
Yeah. And then you sell it. So like an area like that, it matters because probably if you decide to sell yours, somebody in the family is going to be interested in keeping that beachhead.
Oh yeah. And we've talked to our kids. Glenn's got 2 kids from his first marriage, and the look on our son James's face when I walk into the orchard and tell him this is this type of apple, this is this type of blueberry, and he's looking at me kind of like, why are you telling me this? I'm like, do you not get that this is your inheritance? And everything changed. He suddenly tuned in and was like, really? And I'm like, what are your dad and I going to do with this? We need you to understand what we're building here so that you can keep it going. Because between my ideas and his engineering, we're going to have so much of this operational. I mean, we're sitting, not to sound like I'm bragging, but we're sitting on 9,000 watts of solar panels, just waiting for us to have the time and the projects to put them up for.
Yeah. That sounds like a workshop.
Doesn't it? Well, that's one of the many workshops that we're talking about trying to get up here. That's one of our eventuals, is to have this be a location that people can come to, have it be a learning location. That's kind of how we're turning our get shit done weekends into, you want to come learn how to build raised beds, you want to learn how to build soil, you want to learn how to propagate plants, you want to learn how to take care of little baby chicks. Like, everything's happening this weekend up here.
Yeah, it looks like Letty's ready to come out for a GSD weekend and help you put those panels up.
Awesome. Yeah, and I've got plants for Letty that I got to get to her.
Yeah. Yeah, she saw the show announcement today. She said, I guess I'm not driving out to Kiri's for lunch to pick up my plants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I might be able to come to that. I have a family in the States. See? You've already got somebody ready for your solar build.
Fantastic.
I'm looking forward to helping cross promote it.
Nice. So yeah, we've got a million projects, and we're lucky to have successful businesses that help keep everything going. This year is going to be a very high cost year, just moving the house. But we've had people contact us asking even about things like wedding venue, because the orchard in full summer and spring is very beautiful. And by the end of this year, with me being able to give full focus onto the landscaping portion of it and the food lanes, I think this year is going to be a big game changer for just the look and productivity of the orchard itself.
What does your livestock look like? What are you managing there right now?
Birds and bunnies, keeping it simple. We've got outside, I have 3 heritage turkeys, one of them sitting on a nest of about 8 eggs right now, the good old fashioned way. Inside, I have 9 broad-breasted white poults that are about a month and a half old that are coming up. I have 8 to 10 guinea. We had a really bad predation winter, so we lost a lot of our outdoor flock, but I have probably, I think, 8 outside. I have 15 inside that are about 3 weeks old. And then probably 15 chickens outside. I've got 30 inside. And then probably a dozen Muscovy duck mixed in there. And then we have 4 rabbits, and we're finally going to start to breed them this year. So the rabbit buildings, we got to nose around John's rabbit enclosures enough that I think we figured out what we want it to really be. So now that we've got that plan and that build kind of figured out, we're going to start breeding and start expanding into that.
Sweet.
What do you know what you're doing different than what we have on your rabbits?
He's been consistently trying to build a contraption to separate what comes out of the cages. And I think between what you're doing and what he talked to John Witherspoon about his process, he's going to be doing a hybrid that way. He was very focused on wiring the cages to the kennel walls and just using you have your cages up on lumber. I can't remember. Sawhorses. Thank you. I'm like, I couldn't find the word. Doing the sawhorse process so that we can move them around easier and get around and rearrange is basically the way we're going to do the new room.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if he has a way of separating the things that come out of the cage that works consistently, I'm very interested in that, because we've been messing with that too a bit.
So every company making cages has them. If you look at KW Cages, they actually build their cages for production, for rabbit production commercially, and they sell it by the section, and it comes down and you can put it into a IBC tote and then haul it away, or you can actually put it into the sewer. And then there's also some that require irrigation with water, and then some that don't require any water. There's a guy on Facebook who is taking sheet metal, like you build AC ducting out of, and he makes these funnels that fit on a 24 by 30, 30 by 30, 30 by 36 cage. He makes them specifically for your size cage, and it comes down into a funnel, and you put a 5-gallon bucket under there. Now we move it by hand, and I actually like the idea of the 5-gallon bucket because I can grab it easier. Whereas when I use the cement trays, there's 2 sizes of cement trays. There's the small and the large, and I'm super lazy. So I thought I liked the large because I wouldn't have to move them as much. What you find is with the large, it's actually heavy enough with the urine in there and the urine eats those trays apart, that you end up with a lot of it on you. No matter how clean you think you're going to be, if you're not cleaning those things every day, you are going to have rabbit piss all over you. So just put on some dirty clothes and just plan to shower afterwards. But that's the main thing. I think that I would like those 5-gallon buckets, but I do use the cement trays. Also, now we used Tartar dog kennel for those panels. Mm-hmm. That door is just small enough that you have to kind of turn sideways to get those cement trays out of. Also, I would build it in a manner where I could just drive in there with the skid steer. If you build everything around whatever size equipment you're running, like my skid steer is, I think, 6 inches from outside track to outside. So when I put 6-foot gates in, we can get in there, but doing it over, I would make it an 8-foot gate instead of a 6-foot gate. Just, little things. And I would make it bigger. However big you think you need that thing, like, because we put the troughs out there for the baby chick brooders out there. And when you put those in there, they're just a little tight. If we had it bigger, we could put those in there and then be able to get between the troughs instead of reaching over troughs. It just, everything, just amplify everything you're going to do, whether you need it or not, because you will end up needing it.
Yeah. And this year, our brooders, I always want to go get the nice metal brooder like what you guys use. We just took, I found a local farmer who was getting calcium supplement in IBC totes, and they use the racking for selling firewood. They were giving away the inserts. We just took those and cut them 1/3 and 2/3 so they can size up. We've had the birds out in there in those so far for the last 5 or 6 weeks, and they've worked perfectly. They're up on a pallet, easier to change out. The birds have more room. It's a better process for us while the weather's still a little off here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
They'll go to our outside, more vertical brooders where they start to once we start to harden them off, so to speak. Our turkeys will go into the enclosure that we have our adults in, but we have to split it right now because aggression issues with the new nest. The chickens will go out to a mobile tractor and the guineas will go to a mobile tractor. So soon, maybe in a few weeks, they'll be out of my garage.
What was the predation you had this winter?
We have a lot of mink and a lot of raccoons. We've actually had some problems with hawks also with our turkeys. But we're hoping that, one of our, if we get to projects this summer, is doing a bird run all the way along one of the 400-foot runs of our orchard, because our orchard's actually enclosed. We've got like 16-foot poles, wire, all that. We're going to basically kick out another 6, maybe 8 feet off of that fence line, run another fence line, and then enclose it. And that's where all of our birds will end up, because that will end up cutting a lot of the cricket and grasshopper that we're getting from the fields next to our orchard.
Are the crickets and grasshoppers affecting the orchard?
Yeah. I've had to move several gooseberries. The only thing that does okay on that end of the orchard have been the raspberries. My raspberries and my strawberries can kind of ignore it, because by the time the crickets and grasshoppers get bad, the strawberries are pretty much, that batch of strawberries is done for the season. But I just had to transplant 2 gooseberries because I've had them in for 3 or 4 years and they're just not developing because they get beat so badly by the crickets.
16-foot poles are huge. What were those originally?
They weren't telephone poles. We got them from a building supply amazing warehouse that was up here that closed sadly last year. And he got them in, I think, 8, 10, 12, 14, and 16. But he might have even gotten them larger, but he does a tall pole and then a shorter pole. And I think it's 16, 12. And then we've got 2x4 welded wire up to at least 5 foot, and then underground also all the way around the orchard. We've got 2 big vehicle doors, one on each, long end. And then we're putting in 2 man doors where the well heads are, because we actually, he does everything. He did a sandpoint well on one side of our orchard 2 years ago, which is how we've watered the orchard between that and catchment. He's putting a second one in on the far side of the orchard so that we can set up more balanced drip irrigation. Just trying to automate what we can.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got a question for you. Is there anything you'd like to grow but can't due to the zone you're in?
Peaches, for the love of Jude, yes. We're in zone 3B up here, so there's a ton that I can't grow up here. Peach, if I could have peaches, I would probably already have 10 peach trees. If I lived in Florida, I would grow mangoes and avocados just to brag that I could grow mangoes and avocados. Otherwise, we do pretty good. I mean, I've got 5 or 6 varieties now of raspberries and blueberries that I grow in our orchard. 3 or 4 types of currants, 3 or 4 types of strawberries. You know, every year you just add a little bit more. And this year we're doing a lot of rearranging and looking at where things may be planted and really going, are they thriving here? Or is it time to try to, now that we have more beds, now that we're expanding and actually have places to plant them, you know, is this best here? That's where I'm doing a lot of flipping around of taking blueberries out here and putting them in over there. And, you know, it's the great experiment.
So I don't know
you
what
have to commit to where it is and stick to it. No.
I don't know what the definition of farm is. Like I say, people ask what we do, and I say we're a farm, but I don't really believe that we're a farm. But you said earlier you're putting in another 145 feet, a couple 145-foot beds. Like that's a serious amount of raised beds. How many feet do you think you currently have?
We probably have about 700 feet of raised beds right now. And then I also have raised beds similar. It's kind of the hillbilly version of your Tractor Supply beds. 55-gallon barrels split the long way and then a welded frame. We have 20 of those. Those are going to be migrating off of the living property down to the orchard this year. So we'll probably have over 1,000 feet in raised beds by the end of the summer.
Do you guys move those by hand, or do you ever need to move them?
The ones that we're going to move this year, the barrel ones, we've got them lining all the way around the house that we live in currently. Those will move down and do basically an outside wall of the orchard, and they'll never probably move again unless something terrible happens.
Got it.
And we just got the greenhouse finished. That has another 50 feet of raised beds.
How big is that greenhouse?
12 by 26. So it's a little Harbor Freight deal.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, my nephew gave it to me for Mother's Day a couple of years ago. He moved up here with his family and he kind of co-farms with us. And he was like, you're the one that grows everything, so I'm just going to give you this for Mother's Day. And I was like, that was a very smart move. Thank you.
That's cool.
So
What
it's just
do you do with all the surplus stuff you grow?
I make sauce. I don't have a lot of surplus because I was raised by a very brilliant but very frugal mother, and nothing goes to waste. So we harvest all summer, and I have container after container of clean and frozen produce. And then once the garden gives up the ghost, I go into cooking mode, and I start cooking in September. And I don't stop cooking until we come to the festivals and whatnot in April. And then I come home from KSL, SRF, Midwest Preparedness, you know, the gamut. And the switch stops and I don't make sauce. Then I'm worried about plants and baby birds. So I've got a really nice split of kind of how my year breaks down, which is lifestyle design, is something that I've done very intentionally and really like living this way a lot, because constantly different. There's always the change up, and I'm a Sagittarius. I get bored really easily. I need new projects, so it works for me.
How much time do you think it takes daily to maintain the property?
To maintain 4 hours, to do a good job 8 hours, to do the job that I want to do 12 hours.
Okay.
For one person.
For one person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it's also, again, designing your life to succeed. We've got a little camper. That little camper is going to move down next to the orchard and is going to be there for me so that I don't need to be running back and forth, wasting 15, 20 minutes when everything I have is down there. If I need a bathroom, there's a bathroom. If I need to get a glass of water, I've got a fridge. I don't need to create extra movement to stay on task.
Yeah. The composting outhouses have made a huge difference here.
Oh yeah. And we're talking about netting, putting a net all the way over the top of the orchard this year, which is will be a great content developing project, because we're basically taking the shade system that we used to use when we ran a village out at Burning Man, and we're taking that and reinstalling that into the orchard at a 10-foot height, and then netting over the entire orchard, because black cherry knot is horrible up here. We have right now, I think, 8 cherry trees, and it's transmitted by birds flying into your orchard and landing on it. And then
That's why you're netting them all. I was wondering why you had them all encased.
Yeah. Well, we have them encased because deer and bear are real up here. They get real hungry, and fruit trees are delicious. But, we want to net over it just, again, for future. The way we want to trim everything, the 10-foot height shouldn't be too much of a problem for harvesting.
So if we want to have cherries, or I don't know if it's this way everywhere, but my trees come on with cherries, but you'll never get them because as soon as you think you want to pull one, the birds got it the morning before. You'll see them. Mm-hmm. So I think to have cherries, we would have to net them. Now, I could probably net the cherries, but I couldn't imagine netting a whole orchard. Do you have trees higher than your orchard that are going to have debris fall in, or will that be the tallest thing around there?
It's the tallest thing around there. The closest tree to our orchard is probably 50 feet off of one of the walls. Otherwise, it's clear in every other direction.
So that'll be a one-time installation until the net just fails.
Yep.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah. It's better than putting it on and taking it off every year.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we've just taken 4x4s and put them every 10 feet out, 10 feet wide. That's that grid out there. And then we just run shade cloth, and we use dog leash, bolt snaps with eye bolts. Oh, nice. And we just put them up. And then as long as you catch them before a good, winter storm, then you just take them down, and we'll put them up here in another month or so. But the garden will do awesome. And then one day you'll come out and everything's just dead on the ground because it's so hot. And that's when I put them up. And then the next day it'll just be like the whole garden's awake again, and you can get shade cloth in all kinds of different ratings. So that worked really well. We're going to expand that and double that this year. So we'll have twice as much shaded area, because the garden is not where the garden should be. The garden is where I want it. And that's the way we found to make it work.
We also have, back from the Burning Man days, we have a ton of those deco kind of triangular shade cloths in several different colors. So if I have my way, once the netting goes up, I will start to position those to the surrounding one, not only as a shade break, but also as a privacy break.
Cool.
Try to make it look cool.
I have no doubt you will make it look cool, Kiri.
Well, if you want people to come and visit and come and check out what you do, you got to make it look cool. You got to give them value.
Yep. Jeremy would like to mention that you grow amazing salted caramel, but it doesn't grow in his zone. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Oh, salted caramel is my husband's favorite thing that I make. And actually, I have started a partnership up here with a dairy. So the next time you guys see me at SRF, I should be able to tell you exactly how sourced the cream for my caramel is, which is exciting. But I make caramel sauce, and it's ooey gooey and delicious. And it's great on apples. It's great in yogurt. It's great in oatmeal, however you want to use it.
Just
sadly, with a spoon. Yeah. My darling husband used to eat it on apple slices, and he looked at me one day with that smile and said, "Babe, I figured out how to cut down on the sugar. I'm going to the apples. I'm just going to eat it with a spoon." I was like, "Okay, babe." whatever works for you. But we've both gone very ketovore, so I have lots of, well, not a lot, but I have a decent amount of caramel on the shelves, but it stays there until someone orders some off the website.
Yeah, that's the fun part about going keto is then you're like, and I produce jams and jellies that I don't eat anymore.
Well, and that's where I pivoted, because I used to do the very traditional strawberry jam, very sweet stuff. The caramel is definitely the sweetest thing that I make, but that's where I pivoted into sauces of, when you're ketovore, you're keto, you can use a little bit of it, especially if you're using something like stevia or a monk fruit, that you're not going to get the diet sugar taste. So I try to use things like allulose, which has, to me, zero flavor difference. It caramelizes like real sugar. What I found is using a higher quality product, not only in the lower glycemic impact sweeteners, but also in your fruit product, you don't need to use as much of it. And you can take something like my blueberry sauce, instead of eating it, a thick slab of it, you're using a little drizzle of it and you're getting a ton of flavor, but you can also use it in savory combinations. I have friends that use my blueberry sauce to saute greens and green beans. Yeah. So I'm trying to lean a lot of my products that way also, because I think, trying to live this life, but also I do feel I have moments of like, is it really okay that I'm making this super sugary caramel sauce when I know it's not good for people? But everybody gets to make their own decision.
Yes, Red Flyer Media says all of her goodies are freaking amazing. Well, the thing is, people do need to make their own choices, and a lot of people have something at some point, right? So not caramel sauce every meal of every day, but a little jar of it at Self-Reliance Festival or Christmas or Thanksgiving is not the problem. The problem is the habit, which it took me years to get to that the problem is the habit, but everything in moderation. Yeah. Unless you can't do it at all anymore because you're starting to cut off your limbs from diabetes. And then that's a whole different, then it's time to be 100% disciplined, I think. Radio Made Easy says, we're renting for at least another year. What kind of raised beds would you recommend that could survive moving later?
I think that I can send you the plans that we have, but if you know how to do basic, very simple welding, like I could do the welding, getting some tube stock and building these very simple frames, and you can source 55-gallon drums anywhere on Facebook, cut them, wood base them, put then your soil complex, and they are super mobile because you can dump and haul, and then you've got a frame. It can be reused, repurposed. I think that's for, if you want something that's mobile, that's the direction I would go in, because they're gonna outlast anything that you're buying that I've been looking at.
And those are mobile in that you're going to empty them and then they're light enough to move?
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah, and I would say, what do you want to grow, Evan? Like, how much food between now and moving in about a year do you want to grow? And how does that support you towards your goal of moving in a year? Because I love having vegetables, but if I knew I was moving in a year, I'm going to tailor it to, like, I really want some tomatoes, some peppers, some spinach.
5 gallon?
I'll probably buy my green beans at the farmer's market and can those, because why put all that work in to only get it for one season?
Are the 55-gallon drums, plastic drums, the same dimensions as the metal? Would they fit the same frame?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay,
think
we're gonna have some videos of Evan welding, it looks like, this year.
I have no doubt that he can weld.
Yeah. There's nothing Evan can't do.
That is true. Okay, John, what shade cloths would you recommend for tomatoes in Florida?
The truth is, I don't have a clue. I get whatever shade cloths I can get readily available, and I have all kinds of different darknesses. Some of them aren't even shade cloths. Some of them are cargo netting from Tractor Supply is what I started with. And the only reason I went to a shade cloth over that is because the price tripled right after COVID. Whereas I was buying them for $60, they were upwards of $180. So then I started buying shade cloth, and I sourced the most recent ones off of Amazon. They were all very inexpensive. I just read the ones that had the highest viewer or highest ratings, and they are very thin and flimsy. You can see them on some of my videos from last year when I was putting them up. They are still usable, but they're very, very flimsy. It's just like you can get them off Viva or something. If you want really good shade cloth, though, I think it's shadecloth.com or growersolution.com, I believe, has turnkey, and they will also do percentage rate. They'll do them however you want them built, and they'll bind them, and they'll also put the grommets in for you, which I would say definitely get. Now, when we do have them rip out, because at about year 2 and 3, they do start to rip out, just take your golf ball, put it in the corner, and then just tie it around or sew it, and then just girth hitch off of there with some tubular nylon or some 550 cord, and you're back in motion for another year or 2. But I would say talk to a a growing place there in your area and ask them specifically to your area what they would recommend.
I will also say, if you want to send me an email, because I don't know, but I can look it up. I think I bought shade cloth for my greenhouse 15 years ago that is a metallic style instead of the black shade cloth you always see. And that has been out being shade cloth for 15 years and is not falling apart. It's not pulling apart. It is not grommeted. I just bought a raw roll of it and then like looped it over some PVC pipe for end-to-end stability. But that stuff has lasted way longer than any other type of shade cloth. It's expensive, but that's a buy once, cry once. And if you want to know where I got it 15 years ago, you'll have to email me, because I will have to dig up an invoice. But it was one of the big greenhouse supply stores, and it is the metallic stuff, not the black stuff.
Yeah, so, Grower Solution has that too. They're near you.
That type of netting, if it's the metallic kind of silver edged stuff, it's called a luminette, and they use it for shade cloth out at Burning Man quite a bit. So that can go through everything, and it's definitely worth the cost.
Yeah. So that's your buy once, cry once, but it's not necessarily, I mean, the less expensive black stuff, I've now got my second year on it, and we just put a whole bunch of 50% shade cloth up under Taj Mahal before the spring workshop so that it's not as hot under there. And it looks good. It's, we'll see how many years it lasts, but if it's lasting me 4 or 5 years, then I have to do the spreadsheet, but I'm pretty sure the black stuff is, for my life, maybe a better choice. I just have that one piece because I had it over my greenhouse for years and years and years. It outlasted my greenhouse. Like, my greenhouse fell apart before the shade cloth fell apart.
Bootstrap Farmer also, I would check them out. That's Jesse has an incredible YouTube channel. Yeah, so anything those guys are putting out is always spot on too. But that Grower Solutions right by you, Nicole, and they do all kinds of commercial type stuff. That's where my irrigation system came from too.
Yeah, I should go see them.
Yeah, a ton of those. I think Tad knows those guys. Who made my greenhouse? Grower Solution. Row house. They're actually coming out to Tad's place. The CEO's coming out and installing Tad's at his place.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they're shooting video out there.
Cool. Well, that's kind of been one of those things on my list for a year I haven't done, that it's time to get it off my list for a year and just go do it. How many things like that do y'all have?
None.
No, John doesn't have any. He's like, I make my decisions and I go with it.
Ours has to sort down to almost like the elements. Okay, what do we have to do for water this year? What do we have to do for the plants this year? What do we have to do for the birds this year? And each of those have 3 to 5 projects on them, and then you get to start to play the money and time game.
Yeah, and priority. I was pretty piss poor at choosing my priorities for the last 6 months, and it slapped me in the face and taught me a lesson, and now I'm better at choosing my priorities.
What's the one that stands out the most? What?
Me?
Yeah.
I said yes to too many speaking engagements.
Got it.
That's literally that don't really bring in money. And so, because I want to help people. And it led to me not having enough time to do the things that are most important here and for Hollow Roast and for my podcast. So I have said no to everything when I realized that, because, you know, I want Self-Reliance Festival to be off the hook in October. The only way I do that is invest time in that. I do not invest time in that if I'm on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was actually, you know, it was clear what was happening. And then I asked you that question about Hollow Roast, and I was like, and I'm not going to execute any of that for another 6 weeks, because I know that even if I try to push it, it's not going to work, because I got all this other stuff I have committed to.
Yeah. And Hollow Roast is the biggest income earner there.
Yeah. It's the one I should like. We just officially launched the K-Cups today. So,
which are awesome. Like, you don't even need to add anything to them. I mean, just straight black out of the pod. They're like perfect. Like when we had the first ones, we had our input, and then it was changed, and then they were spot on the second time. Like this set we got they're ready to go. I mean, 100% better than they ever could have been.
Yeah, your feedback helped me, because I only had tasted those in one K-Cup machine. And so like I spread out the first sample batch to a couple people, and you're like, it's just not quite as robust. And so I had them put more coffee in each pod. That was the solution. That was it. Super simple.
Yeah.
And then I just did the whole camping trip I just did for Midwest Preparedness this last like 4 days. I did it with K-Cups the whole time, because I wanted to see what's it really like to travel with these things. And we shot a couple videos, of course. So
yeah, volume would be the biggest thing. Weight's nothing.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm really happy with the product, and then we'll decide, you know, like right now it's Hollow Roast Dark, but we'll decide what the next kind of coffee is based on sales now. But they're doing pretty well. I just sent out the email today, and they're selling, and those things ship like that, because I'm not running out to roast them right now 2 days before I go to Texas.
Yeah,
so.
That's awesome. You have no input on them physically. That's badass.
Yeah. Now I just got to get the guys I ordered from to drop ship from there. I have to talk to them and see if they do that, because that actually then they're even fresher.
Yeah.
So, or AJ needs to set up his K-Cup production facility.
Right. He needs another project too.
Yeah, when he was here, we were talking about him, because I ran the numbers on, you know, like what the labor cost is and all of that. And I could tell he's like, how much is a K-Cup producing machine? And why don't you want to do that? And I'm like, because I don't want to build a business where I am running coffee through through that machine. That's not what I want to do. Yeah. Anyway.
How much is a K-Cup machine?
Oh, you can get into it for $8,000 to $10,000 by the time you're done with everything at a sort of an entry level. They're less than that, but you have to get other things in place for it as well. Yeah.
I'll bet Viva has one.
They don't. 100% looked there for
1 year.
They have a juice cup that puts a lid on like a K-Cup, but it's not a K-Cup.
Yeah, we have that.
Yeah. Do you like it?
I don't know that we ever we had some issue tuning it or something. We were trying to get it to do something it wasn't meant for, I think.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, Kiri, are you going to be 100% in on sauces, or are you planning to like sell surplus fruits and vegetables to people fresh?
I am open to that. There's just not as much of a demand locally where I live, because I am in the country, and I am still in a country where everybody has gardens. What I've found the best impact for fresh is selling my plant starts. I don't remember who said it, but I heard recently, if just 10% of the population of our country starts their own garden, we will change things. We will change the dynamic. And that is one of my goals as a homesteader, is to get people who wouldn't usually grow their own food to at least try. So last year I picked 5 people. This year I picked 10 people I'm gifting gardens to. I will give you the plants. I will come and help you plant them. I will teach you what you need to know about what's too much, what's not enough, help you however I can to get more people gardening. So that's where I spend a lot of energy in the spring and summer up here, is just making sure people have what they need and the support they need for their first gardens. But on the long list of honey, will you build me? One of the things that I want to have is a farm stand that is a, honesty based farm stand where I can set things up. There's a cash box. They can help themselves to what they want. But also, to be transparent, there's 2 other farmers that I work pretty closely with up here. And one of them has a beautiful farm stand and one of them does farmers markets. And I hear from them how those numbers are. So those are kind of second and third tier projects for me, but the gifting of the garden and the education and working with the Homesteaders Club and the Master Gardeners of Wisconsin groups has been more fulfilling to me than selling tomatoes, I guess.
You just made me have an idea. What if people could pay you to gift people gardens, like give the gift of a garden near you or anybody else like you?
That would be
what
awesome.
If somebody could put together that routing system? That would be really interesting. But
have Prius.
Oh, there's a market for it. It was just a random place that my brain went when you were talking.
Are you growing turkeys for yourself, or do you grow turkeys for people's Thanksgivings, or why turkeys?
We sell turkeys to close friends and family. The first year we did it, we gifted a few turkeys to friends of ours who are, I don't want to say influential, but, a couple of chefs and a couple of business owners. And the reviews were phenomenal because once you've had a correctly raised turkey, it's a different animal, which is where we brought our production up. Last year, sadly, we didn't even have a turkey for Thanksgiving because we had predation. And yes, Amanda, I love turkeys. We had a lot of predation, and then we lost a freezer. So we lost 5 turkeys from the freezer. But this year, our numbers are back up, and I've already sold 10 of our turkeys. So that's been a nice income stream. And once we have more, when we're down on our land and can expand our property better, if there was a bird I was going to lean into, it would definitely be turkeys. 1 part hilarity and 2 parts really great meat.
I've seen people say that they're more profitable. Would you agree with that, Nicole, that they're more profitable having done so many of both?
Yeah, the turkeys were definitely more profitable the year I did them. They also poop a lot more, which is why we're not doing them right now. It's just not where we want our effort. But you can provide a premium product for one time a year at Thanksgiving when people buy their turkey, and you can charge a premium price. And they are so much better than the store that when people decide to trust you with their $130 or whatever it's going to be for that turkey, and then they taste it, and then they make the bone broth from it, and they see how much further it stretches as well, just as food, it makes a huge difference. And then you also know that you're getting a better balanced protein in there because they've been pasture raised and they've eaten bugs. They've eaten the bugs. So chickens, though, what you have there is a steady, if you set up your market, you have a steady income all year long. Like the Hoff family, Hoff Grid Homestead, that did the chickens for the Salatin processing workshop, they do a really good job. So if you want the premium chickens, you go to them, right? They're already just managed, it was a noticeable bump up in quality on their chickens, and that's because they're investing that. That's who we're using for our chickens for our chicken processing workshop, because we are walking away from managing poultry as a seasonal meat bird, and we have a flock that's just designed to feed us the few chickens we eat a year and reproduce on its own. But there's still people who would just want to learn how to process them and who've never cooked a pasture-raised bird.
We've had turkeys here, 1, 2, 3 at a time, but we've never kept them completely confined. But they're great entertainment having them here. I always like it when there's turkeys here.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Out of the 9 poults, they're only about this big at this point. I can easily already identify 4 of them as males, and they're all pure white. And just watching them, I'm like, you're literally like tomming at me right now, and you're not even a month old. Okay, this is the entertainment portion of it that makes up for the poop portion of it.
Yeah, it's a scale up in poop, and I think ducks are the same way. If you're used to chicken scale of poop, they're a scale up, but the way we manage ours, we don't usually deal with their poop. Do you have one of these in your freezer now? A Yolink?
No.
So
What is-
these I should totally become a dealer for these guys. But these sensors you can throw in your freezer, and it it will send me a notification. It'll send me a text message, and it will send me an email every time it goes outside of a parameter. So this is how I've known that the door didn't get closed all the way a couple of times.
At the very least, go back to your the description on this video when it's over and put a link to your Amazon store.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get that ordered, because that was after coming back from summer vacation last year. My nephew did a great job watching the farm. All the birds were alive, all the plants were alive, got watered. But we just had this one deep freezer full of poultry in the basement right by Glenn's desk.
So I was going to ask you about that. We had years and years ago at the first house we had when we moved here, we had a big chest freezer, a big one, and it sat on the bar, right behind the bar to the kitchen. And we would walk in the house and you would just smell dead. And we'd open the doors up, look all around. Well, that chest freezer had Amanda's sewing machine. It was just kind of a catch-all. It never got checked. And the smell would just go away when you open the doors. And we'd look around and we'd go all through you couldn't find anything dead. And it'd go a couple of days, maybe a week, and you'd come back home and you'd smell dead. Well, that thing would build up enough pressure that it would burp. So we don't even know how long it was off for when that happened. So usually when it happens, it's really bad. You don't have any kind of idea. So that thing Nicole's got would tell you right away. Even if you lost it, you would know. Like, we had another freezer die here, and by the time we found it, it had just like almost liquefied. I did a video taking all that out of there. We just got it all out, bundle at a time, into the bucket of the skid steer, and then just got it dumped into the dumpster here. But man, it is absolutely the worst smell. And they say you can, if it were to become unplugged or something, they say you can use, what am I thinking of? What's that powder to take the smell out with?
Baking soda?
Baking soda. They say you can use baking soda, but you can always smell it just a little bit.
No, we've pressure washed fridges.
No, you can still smell it.
You can still smell it.
We got lucky with that one because the fridge didn't die. We just had a blip and it just didn't reset. Yep. So when we got home and found the nastiness, we plugged the freezer back in, froze it all solid. And then the gross part was having to unwrap everything, but it all went into our compost. Like, we've got a big meat pile down on our land that it all went to. So.
Yeah. So Homestead Glamour says, is that a Govee sensor? No, it's a Yo-Link. And the benefit of the Yo-Link over the Govee, unless they've changed, is that, or Govee, or however you say that, is I can set a low and a high, and can make low basically infinitely low. Well, low enough that it's not an issue that my freezer goes that cold. So that then means if it's out of this range, it goes above 25 degrees for me. It's still frozen in there, but my freezer should never be above 25. Unless somebody's like literally standing there with the door open for too long looking for something. So that still gives me time to call home if I'm on the road. And if the power goes out, I get a notice on my phone if I'm on the road that it's no longer talking to the freezer. And I can call and say, is the power out? And do you have a plan in place for that? Which is also super helpful.
Nice. I have a feeling we'll be ordering those tonight.
Yeah. Just know this. They have a package you have to get a hub too. They have a package with a hub and 2 sensors that are made for indoor use, which I did buy that package because it was like a get me started thing. Those sensors will probably not last as long as this more expensive sensor, which is made for outdoor use, which is made for the humidity and that sort of thing. So I ended up getting the hub and those 2, and then 2 more of these for my freezers. And when I did the spring workshop, I used a fridge I don't usually have plugged in. And the first thing I did was that's why this one's on my desk, is throw one in there and say, is it getting down, is it getting to temperature before I trust it with event food? And it did. So yeah, and you can change the programming easily through an app on your phone. So when it's really, because we're not built for the cold y'all have. So when it's really cold here, I throw one down in my pump house.
Okay. Makes sense.
And then if it's getting too cold in there, I know that I need to think about pipes. And then, yeah.
That was the thing. I never realized that there would be so many freezers in my life as a homesteader. That was the thing. And now we've got 2 full-size stand-up freezers. We've got 3 chest freezers. And a woman that we used to co-farm with when we lived in Milwaukee, she had the farmland. We would come and do the work and whatnot. She's selling us her walk-in freezer and her walk-in cooler.
Oh, nice.
So that's going to be a next year build plan, but getting those installed into a container so that we've got that. But I don't even blink at the thought of having 5 freezers anymore in my life. It was not something I ever expected to happen.
Yeah, I bought a new fridge. I had to buy a new fridge about 1.5 years ago. And I got a consumer grade. And it was a stupid decision to do that because I could have spent just as much money on just a stupid commercial fridge delivered to my door from Webstaurant or from one of the other fridge people. And what's going to happen once I get through the whole I have to replace all the cars phase of the year, the next phase is the fridge phase. I'm going to use that one as an event fridge when I need it from time to time. And I'm getting a commercial fridge in my kitchen because I'm over it. I am over the crap quality appliances that we get. So
Yep.
I should have, like John told me that 5 years ago or something. And I shouldn't have taken this long to absorb that message. He's like, there's my commercial dishwasher. The commercial fridges work until they don't work, but you can repair them. And then boom.
Yeah.
I can't wait to build our summer kitchen that is going to be a project for next year. And that's where the commercial stove and countertops and all the commercial grade stuff that I've been slowly collecting over 3 years gets to go.
Are you canning outside right now when you can?
No, because most of the time I'm doing a lot of my canning in the fall and the winter to help heat the house also, because we have, standard electric floorboard heating in this house. We also have a wood stove and we have an avid cook. So we save a lot on electricity and propane by just using the wood stove and me doing a lot of canning.
How do you move a house?
That's a really good Glenn question. But the plan as I know it is we're stripping the siding. We're taking the roof off because the roof has about 4 to 6 inches of layers of tar paper and shingle. You have to lighten it as much as possible, I believe, on the sides, put reinforcements or connection stays on it. We're taking the roof off because also when we get it moved, we want to extend that up about 4 feet to have a more functional second floor. But then they're going to jack the house up. We've already got the cribbing that goes underneath of it. Out in my driveway right now, there is a huge metal truck bed thing. Again, Glenn would be better at describing this. He is getting the axles and the driver from a local neighbor who we're friends with. They're going to come over, put the axles on the trailer, roll the trailer underneath of the house, drop the house back on it, drive it across the property, recrib, pull the trailer out, and then decrib and put it on the foundation that we poured last fall.
That's awesome. So just like one of those house moving shows, just like that.
Yep, but with a lot more hillbillies.
Well, that'll be more entertaining in video.
Yeah, he recommended that I go to Tennessee or visit some friends or do something that weekend because I'm gonna be the problem.
You're gonna be losing your mind.
Yeah, he builds it, I fill it. So I actually have a degree in design and get to exercise it with certain things like how do I take this 16 by 24 foot old farmhouse and turn it into a space that he and I can both live in for at least a year while we build out on it. So once it's moved, then we get to redesign the staircase and get the utilities in where they're in the new spot in the house and get all the new cabinetry built, and it'll be fun.
Are you guys currently living in this house?
No.
Okay.
We live about 1,000 feet up the hill from our property.
Okay.
We live in a house that his sister owns that due to family restrictions, they can't live in this house until they do some major construction on it because they need to have a 3rd bedroom. So we've been renting it since we moved up here and then working on the land to get it ready. So hopefully this year we get out of rent land also.
Awesome.
That's almost like paying off your house.
Kinda, yeah. And, we've looked around and figured out the aesthetic that we want for it that is affordable. And I'm really good at places like Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. So we have been gathering supplies for this house since we moved up here. So like we have our wood boiler. It's sitting down there waiting for us to move the house. We have, a bazillion and 15 pallets that we've pulled apart and are stripping and are doing the paint job that we want on it. We have our light fixtures. We have all of those things in shipping containers down there. We just need the house to move.
So wood boiler, is that going to push hot air or is it going to move hot water or liquid?
Hot water.
So the slab is already plumbed for it?
Yeah. When again, Glenn does everything. When he did the framework for it, he made sure all of the radiant floor heating was run, all the plumbing was run. When we had the concrete poured, all they needed to do was come in, check his work, pour it, and level it, and that was about it.
Awesome. Yeah, Bob's new build has that radiant floor heating in there.
Yeah. I lived in Mexico for, a minute and a half in my life when I went to go learn how to build earthships. And the building that I lived in was 1,000 square foot artist studio, but it was all radiant heating and all radiant floor heating. And it was so nice. It's something that he and I talked about heavily of, this is something that we should really try to incorporate because the heat is great that comes off of it. It does a great job of heating your whole space, much more effectively than even like the kind of electrical floorboard heaters that we have in the old houses up here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to have a wood stove too?
Oh God, yeah. I can't live without a wood stove anymore. Like everybody says, why Wisconsin? And I have the moments where, you wake up at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, you pour your first cup of coffee, you go down to the wood stove, you get it restoked from the night before, and you have that 5 or 10 minutes with your coffee and your fire to just go, okay, what does today look like? What do I need to get accomplished? Where are my priorities? And the days that I don't do that, it's a harder start. It's like that just lubes my gears up, so to speak, to get going for the day. And it's just like, who doesn't want to open fire? Like I love having a wood stove. I love the fact that my grow room is where the wood stove is. So if the weather gets touchy outside and we have a fire going on in the wood stove, it's just helping all of my plant starts.
That makes sense. Okay. You're giving a talk on homestead HR at Self-Reliance Festival.
I am.
So what got your gears rolling on that? What do you mean by homestead HR?
You need homestead resources. Something I say to people all the time is use your resources. People don't think about what their resources are. Not only, material things, but people. Do you know a plumber you can ask a question to? Do you know somebody that's really great on web design that you can ask questions to? I'm very good at finding people's skills. It's what I've done for a very long time. And I'm really good at getting shit done. So we have these GSD weekends where we'll have anywhere from 15 people up to 50 people come up to the farm. What I'm very good at is organizing that and making sure that the people who you are inviting know what to expect, that you are prepared for them in so many different ways: safety, food, water, logistics. Where are they staying? Is there going to be shade for them where they're going to be working? You need to think through your whole process. I've been a project manager for years, so really looking at what do you want to get done? How do you need to get it done? Do you need skilled laborers? Who are the people that you need? When does it need to happen? Is it season dependent? And really breaking apart your project and then breaking apart what do you need people-wise or labor-wise. And then there's a lot of aftercare to it, making sure that there's an ownership feeling for the people who are coming and doing this work. Feed them well. Feed them off of your farm if you can. Give them as many stories to take home with them as possible. When they're done, when the project's done, make sure you're showing them what you helped build. Have content to share, to brag about the work that they did. Stay in touch. Let them know, hey, we may be doing another project in the next 6 months. Would you be interested? keeping that connection going and really being able to build not only community, but build a community-minded workforce that wants to come and help you succeed and your project succeed. So I'm very good at teaching people from my own experience on how to do that and how to get volunteer engagement from folks when, who wants to come up and build raised beds is not a really good sales pitch. But who wants to come up and learn how to be more self-sustainable, how to learn how some heavy equipment might work? Who wants to get their hands dirty and, have a farm to table meal and see what that journey really looks like? So I have a lot of ideas about how to do that. And, I'm excited to share that. Hopefully help people be able to build their communities and their kind of volunteer work team for their farms and homesteads.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge that we face as homesteaders is when you need help, how do you get the kind of help that works? And one way to do that is other homesteaders in your community doing sort of that permablitz approach or the GSD weekends. But if you can have a longer term relationship with somebody who wants to come and learn at the same time, that's pretty cool too. So I'm really looking forward to that talk for sure.
What's funny,
it's very easy to negotiate things that get everybody in trouble.
Yes, it is. I mean, and the people who come and help us most frequently are people who live in the city. They want to know what it looks like. They want to know, what does a real farm look like? These are our friends that live in Detroit and live in Chicago and live in Milwaukee and Minneapolis that are getting away to the farm. So it's also a destination for them in a lot of ways. And it's all about how you present yourself and about, you have a lot of work to do no matter what to get a project done. This is requiring a different skill set of really organizing and thinking from the volunteer's point of view. So.
Well, we're coming up on a little over an hour. Why don't we do once around the horn and wrap up today? Let's start with you, Mr. Willis. I've never called you that before.
SOE Tactical Gear is the website. I do a live every night at 9:00 on this YouTube channel. And those conversations are driven by whatever you guys type out. So jump on there, join us, and 9:00, we will see you guys there.
Kiri, what you got for us?
Kiri Torgler from thunderhillfarm.com. My website is live and ready for you. You can find me on all the social medias under Thunderhill Farm or Thunderhill Farm 38. Just look for the red and black plaid. And I look forward to seeing you guys at SRF in the fall.
Right. I'm Nicole Sauce from the Living Free in Tennessee podcast and the Hollow Roast Coffee. And we just launched Freedom Pods today for the K-Cups. If you are interested in trying those out, there's a secret coupon code that will likely be the only coupon code I ever release from Hollow Roast. And it is Freedom Pod, gets you $2 off a box or $4 off 24. That's at hollowroast.com. Check that out. And we will see you actually in 2 weeks. We're going to be out next week, but the week after that, we'll be back on. Make it a great week, guys.